ואהבת לרעך כמוך. It means, on its face, it means do unto others as you would have others do unto you. But behind this obvious meaning lies a deeply Alexandrian principle that I convey exactly what I am and not what I wish, not what I would like or imagine myself to be, even with the best of intentions.
All my life, I took 5 lessons from a teacher of Alexander. He sits here. And then I decided reading a book was better. So I gave it up. I never in my life did any gymnastic. I never played tennis. I never played golf. What else can I tell you? I can't tell you everything I didn't do. It would take too long a time. But my greatest sin, I was working for 12 years as a director of Mr. Ben-Gurion's office. He was our prime minister. I have a faint idea that without him, we wouldn't sit here.
I saw very clearly that no one part of the Alexander community had the option on the truth, the whole elephant. That in fact, only by coming together through dialogue, working with each other, sharing ideas, honestly looking at differences without trying to be right, and above all, seeking first to understand and then to be understood, did we have a hope of getting a glimpse of all the remarkable discoveries of F.M. Alexander. The whole is truly greater than the sum of the parts. 10 years ago, in August 1986, I, as director, was standing much like this, in front of over 250 Alexander teachers at the first International Congress on the Alexander Technique at Stony Brook University on Long Island, outside of New York City.
We are fortunate, we were fortunate to have his help. Others have been fortunate to have our help. We're all fortunate to have the help of each other. We all need each other. But if you think of teachers and pupils, that, I think, is not a very, very satisfactory way of thinking about it, because we are all pupils, we are all learning together. We all have a certain experience, certain capabilities that we can share, and we can help each other.
And mostly thanks to Shmuel. His clever point was to choose Pamela Deutsch. Pamela, where are you? You have to come here, I'm sorry.
Back to basics. We are here to try and understand it individually and together, taking advantage of the energy of a large gathering. Welcome to the 5th International Congress of the Alexander Technique, a big laboratory active on Mount Scopus for just a few days. Every moment is precious. Will never repeat itself. Our aim is to work, to search together for the common denominator from which everything starts. We are inspired by Alexander's work and supported by his search.
בכל הכבשים שנמצאים פה.
going to ask you just to put the feet a little bit wider apart, if you will. And I ask that primarily because, you see, if you've got a wider base, then you can be a little bit more stable, you can feel a little bit safer, a little bit more comfortable. Because we're asking you for freedom. And you know, it is an amazing thing. We all believe in freedom, we all advocate freedom. Look at the population of this city, who've always been demanding freedom for thousands of years and so on. Everybody wants freedom, but do they? When you stop to think about it, it's a very good question, you see. Do people really and truly want freedom? Yes, they want freedom so long as they can feel quite safe and be secure. If you feel a bit uncertain about yourself, if you have to go and do something that's a bit nervous and frightening, you say, oh, I better take a grip on myself, you know? And instead of, you certainly don't want to free yourself in those circumstances. You want to, you know what I mean? And of course, that's what everybody does. And it's a, if you like, it's a paradox, it's a peculiarity, but that's very nice. Now, if you'd be just kind enough, I'm going to take you into the chair, so don't think of going down, just have a good look out of that window, and then just allow your head to go in that direction. There you are. Oh, lovely, thank you so much, that's beautiful. That's it, well done. Well done, that's the stuff. So, I've spoken about balance and about the benefits of unstable balance. In daily life, when you move around the place, you'll find that your habit, your instinctive habit, is to find security and stability and, I'm afraid, fixation, rigidity, things that go with it. But if you have the interest of saying, no, I want to make as little as effort as possible, I want to be as free as possible, I want to be as mobile as possible, I want to see how lightly I can move if I free myself, then you've got to accept instability. You've got to accept instability as a way of life. Frightening, really, but that's what the Alexander technique is really inviting us to do. It's really inviting us not to be afraid of the unknown, not to be afraid of instability and so on, not to fear what may happen, but to feel confident that if we free ourselves and really keep our direction going and inhibit interference, then better and better results will come. I'm going to take you into the chair, and I just want you just to look out. There we are. And there, you see, if you, I know you can feel my hands, but you just think of your head and neck, and just think of your head going up towards the light there, and let the knees go. There you are. There you are, my dear, that's right. The technique, as I see it, is basically underlying, above all, it's a mental process. You'll only accept the implications of freedom if you really are able to accept the implications of freedom, not only of thought, but Alexander was always keen to make the very nice distinction. He said, not freedom of thought, but freedom in thought. So that when you're thinking, in the thinking process, you've got freedom there. You're not fixed to rigid attitudes and rigid suppositions, rigid beliefs and rigid hypotheses. You can change, you can adapt, you can learn. And that's freedom in thought. Freedom of thought merely means that you can say, oh, I'm a Jew or a Christian or something or another, and you can do what you like, but I'm going to practice my own religion or whatever. That's freedom of thought. And of course we want freedom of thought. Naturally people should have their civil rights and so on. But freedom of thought is not the same as freedom in thought. In fact, you very often find that what you've done in giving people their freedom in that way, they then use it to become more rigid and more fixed than ever. And so the aim is freedom, and that's nice. And of course, furthermore, I'd like to say that the thing never to lose sight of in your work is that your pupil has got to be helped to help themselves, himself or herself. People so often say to me, they say, well, of course it's fine when you come and do it for me and you put your hands on me and so on, but how can I help myself? And they hope and expect that you will be able to turn round and give them some wonderful recipe, some secret formula that will just, some magic formula that will just do it. Of course, you've already told them repeatedly how to help themselves. You told them from the very first lesson. You told them from the beginning. You said, look, stop a minute. Stop what you're thinking and so on. Look out of the window and just use your eyes and see something. The thing I want to impress upon you, most of all, is that if you're going to teach, I'm so sorry, if you're going to teach this technique, if you're going to make a success of your teaching, you will find that it has to be done on a one-to-one basis. It has to be you and one other person. You will never really make a satisfactory success of working with several people at a time. Yes, we have to do it very often. I've got to do this now, this morning, with you all. Want them really to learn something? Why then, it's got to be on a one-to-one basis. 5 minutes for questions. Yes.
How would you describe the way you see, or how would you tell us the way you see the hand's role in our teaching or in our profession?
Well, I find, personally, that it's only when I put my hands on somebody that I can really begin to feel what the situation is, whether they're light or heavy, whether they're fixed or free, whether they're going up or pulling down. I don't find that looking is as reliable as touching. And when it comes then to actually showing people and giving them the understanding of what you mean by freeing the neck and letting the head go forward and up and the back lengthening and widening, it's very difficult to do it just without your hands. I can't see any reason to do it without your hands, or to attempt to do it, because it's going to make it so much more difficult.
Work okay for you?
When the movement started,
Yeah.
I got better. When I was sitting down, I was really
We were,
falling down.
we were getting it together.
completely.
Well, you were not sitting in the proper place, you see. I didn't take you back to sitting. I just was waiting to stand up again, you see.
Yes. No, it's not that the place was not right. It's just that I didn't have any length while sitting.
Oh.
No, you want to. Just wait for me.
But the minute you started taking me out of the chair, you gained
So that's
my
interesting,
legs
actually,
again.
because when we were down there, you had stopped lengthening. Then you got it going again, and then she came up. So it's interesting that that goes through so
Yes,
so
of course.
clearly. But it's only an observation and not a complaint, right?
So I want to take the hand. So we can see that the hand is, I can play with the arms out and around. So the hand is going out and around from here. It's better.
במאנקי, להעביר, יכול לשנות גם את מצב כפות הרגליים, כן, ולעשות את זה דרך זה ללאנג'.
נכון, ברכיים נפסעות. תסתכלי אליהם למעלה.
What I would do, and mind you, you've got a good 12 years experience on me teaching, but if you were a new student, what I would say to you is up to this moment, my words were talking to your thinking. And you were able to get a little bit of improvement through working on yourself, okay? Now, if I come and put hands on, my hands talk to your body. But it's the same message. The message is your neck to be free, your head moving forward and up, your body lengthening to widen. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just be there for a moment. You just take a look out there. You got those great trees that are moving in the wind. And have a sense of yourself. You can feel yourself sitting here. And my hands are simply, very easily, going to suggest that your head moves right up just like that. And your whole body comes up like that.
Okay. So if you have changed partners' roles with your partner already, then I ask you now to change partners. And in this change, I would like us also, the ACAT teachers, to change our role. I would like us to just give a set of turns to one group of, each of us one person, an individual turn to each person for a bit. Okay, rather than doing paired turns.
And keep your, right, now turn your eyes away from the camera but keep your head still. Gorgeous, yes, that's real inhibition. Now let your head follow your eyes by letting your nose lead. Right. Now don't drop down on the right. Yes, that's right, yes. Now soften your hips, knees, and ankles. Beautiful, and continue to spiral up. Beautiful. Right, so you come back through here and we just check to see that the whole spine, yes. Beautiful, right. And now if you let that spiral go, you will spring back right to the center.
You can explain to Ruthie what the movement is if you want to, or you can just take her on it.
Okay, well, I'd like you to pick that fluffy thing off the camera.
Pretend.
Pretend to, yeah.
Right. So that's right. Now, as you go, you went already into a spiral, right?
Yeah.
Yes, to reach her. So it's back and up. That's right. Your head moves up, elbows away. And soften your legs just a smidge.
Just like to drop your elbow, that's it.
Just let your eyes fall. That's it. So you're moving. We're moving.
One day he told me how it happened that he came to use the hands. It never occurred to Alexander that anybody but he could be such a fool as to misuse themselves in the way that he did, that he had discovered that he did. And after he got his voice back, he began to teach young drama students. And to begin with, he'd just tell them what not to do. But he found that none of them could not do what he was telling them. So he told me this himself, that he said, no, not that, showing with his hands on the person what he wanted. And then he discovered that that was the way they could learn. I just think it's interesting for you all to know that. It's these things that FM used to talk about, which are so important for all of us. So where do the bad habits that we've all got reside? We all tend to think of it being in the body. It isn't. It's in the nervous system. If it hadn't been in the brain and nervous system where the habits live, FM could never have changed. But because that is where they live, he was able, by working on himself, by inhibiting first of all, and by giving these verbal directions, he was able to stop off the wrong things. And that brings me to a very important point about being wrong. We are all wrong. However many years we've been at this game, we're wrong. And the sooner we accept that and don't worry about it, the better. instead of going about, as many of us do, me included, trying to be right. You see, basically, there's no such thing as being right. There's only finding out where you're interfering so that you need no longer do it. When I start a new pupil, I always say to them, I'm not going to teach you what to do right. Together, we're going to work and find out what you're doing wrong so that you can learn to avoid it. The other thing about the hands is that FM always used both hands on the head. Sometimes he would, as you've seen in the video, put his hand on the top of a person's head and a hand at the back and get them up that way. But usually, and what he taught us to do, was to get that delicate balance between the back hand taking the head, releasing the neck and taking the head a little forward, and the front hand just checking that tendency to overdo it. And it is awfully important that not to lose that skill. Now you see what the hands are doing, actually, the primary thing is giving the orders. And the hands are putting meaning into the orders. Do you follow what I mean? Do ask me questions, anybody, if you want to, because that helps me. Now to sit down again, she says, no, look out in front. Don't look down, pet. That's it. That's it. Now come back to my arm, put the knees away. That's better. Knees apart. That's it. So you've got to get the knees moving away, what FM used to call the knee thrust. Then your lower back has got some support. If your legs aren't working properly, if they're not full of tone, then your lower back is bound to collapse. It's this old business of contrary pulls happening. It's with the working of the contrary pulls in the body that you get balance and poise and stability. Now again, to stand up. Wait a minute, we'll just do a bit more work on the shoulders. It's all right. That's it. Now again, don't help me. That's better. Now you're back on your sitting bones. It's a very tiny thing. Did you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Good. Now to stand up, say no, I'm going to free that neck. The head forward and up. The back to lengthen, the whole spine to lengthen, right up to there. That's it. Again. Forward and up. That's it. Come back. Put the knees away. Yes, lovely. Okay, that'll do for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, that the biggest stimulus you can get is the human touch. That's why the way we work using the hands is such good practice for the pupil, because it's very difficult not to try and do what you think the teacher wants you to do when they're using their hands. No, not to worry, look out in front, that's it. Let me move it, that's it, good, that's better. Now again, let your shoulders be part of your back. Now to get up, she says no, going to free that neck, forward and up with the head, lengthen and widen the back. Now come back and put your knees away. Yes, did it herself, beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Now, one of the things I'd like to do with you is working up against, is that okay if I work up against the wall? I think some people think that Bill Barlow invented that. He didn't. FM did. And we used to do it a lot in the first training course. And it's a very useful thing, particularly if somebody's got a very pulled in back. Now what you do is you stand with the feet, heels about a little further back, about 3 inches from the wall. That's it, that's it. Neck free, the head forward and up to lengthen, widen. the way. Now you get yourself going and then you allow yourself, that's right, you've done this before.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. Now the idea is not to try and force your lower back against the wall, but to work, and gradually, as you move your knees forward, the back will go back to the wall as much as it's capable of at that particular moment. Don't let your head go back. Right, now I want you to move your knees. That's it, that's it. Now as she slides down the wall, so that undue curve in her lower back will diminish. That's it, beautiful. Good, that's enough. That's fine. You know, this is used now as a pre-ski exercise. They don't know where it came from, and of course they don't think when they're doing it. It's difficult not to keep you too long, isn't it? That's good. Now again, put your knees away. That's it. Lovely, that's it. Now all the time you see her lower back is coming nearer to the wall. Now the danger point is when you begin to come up again. That's it, gently, do small, that's it. Good, that's fine. Anybody else? Open up with your head. That's it. Knees forward and away, that's very important. That's it. Come back and put the knees away. Got you? You tried to help me a little bit, didn't you, here?
Yes.
Let's do that again. Doesn't matter. Rejoice. Because it makes clearer what your tendency is. It's because you didn't keep your back coming back.
Yes, I felt quite confused of actually really coming back there. My feet didn't really know, or my brain didn't direct my feet yet, or my knees.
Yes, you're not used to that.
No.
Good. That's right. Well,
so quite a lot of confusion were coming.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, but I can only do what I know
Great.
how to do. You see, we can get into habits in a good way just as well as in a bad way. In fact, this whole situation is a very difficult one from the point of view of inhibition. Now come back to my arm and put your knees away. There you go. Good. All right? Better that time, wasn't it? Okay. That's it. Now come back, put the knees away. Got you? It's too big a stimulus for him. I'm just making it too difficult. Sorry about that. Now, knees away. Now, straight up. There you go. Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, tell your neck to be free. Think, don't try and do it. Your head forward and up. That's right. It's what Shakespeare says in Hamlet, you know, the speech to the players. Suit the action to the words to the action. And this is the way to help your pupils to understand what those words mean. Because at the beginning they don't. We don't. That's it. Now I'm going to take your leg down and you're going to say no to that idea. You're going to tell your neck to be free, your head to go forward and up, your back to lengthen and widen. That's good. It's very important when you're doing the lying down work to keep going back to the head in between everything you do, because if you lose that, you've lost everything. For anything else you do will be meaningless. Got you a little bit too low. Now that's an interesting thing about the head. FM used to say enough book so that the head isn't just tipping back, but not so much that the chin is being forced down. And you can tell that by looking, seeing what's happening. When you're taking the legs down, watch the head, because if you're interfering, or they're interfering with the head, it's no good. Let me do it. That's it. Good. That's fine. That's it. Now I'm going to get her up. The way FM taught me how to do it, I've made one slight change in that when I want to actually move the pupil, I ask them just to bend the knees, just to ease those knees a little, which takes the strain off the lower back. A lot of people do this swinging round to get people up. I can't do that. Now, get up, say no. Now what I'm going to do is get you up to sitting. And when I tell you, bend your knees now, you bend your knees.
No waiting?
Pardon?
No inhibition in that part.
You haven't given me time. There's a lot of inhibition involved. Now, I want you to get up. You say no, neck to be free, my head to go forward and up, to lengthen and widen my back and bend the knees, but not yet. That's it, good. Now again, neck free, head forward and up, back, no, no. You're trying to do it. Don't worry about it. Let it be wrong. Neck free, head forward and up. That's lovely. Back to lengthen and widen. Bend the knees, wait. Bend the knees, now. 2 fingers and she's up. That's it. Bend the knees, now, that's it. Now let me take you forward, no. That's it. Now let me take your arm, no. Now I want you to take hold of the top of the chair with straight fingers, very gently and firmly, he used to say. That's it. Hold the chair firmly with straight fingers, order the wrist in, order, not do. Pull to the elbow and think of widening the upper part of the arm as you widen the back. That's good. It's a very long sequence for this particular maneuver. Now, head forward, knees forward, hips steady, don't move. Straight fingers, the wrist in, gently. Pull to the, no, hold on. It's all these contrary things which are so difficult. Pull to the elbow, no, no, that's it. Widen the upper part of the arm as you widen the back. That's good. Now, final refinement, think of very gently lifting and stretching that top of the chair without doing it. Can you tell what happens in your back when you do that?
It opens.
Yep. Absolutely. So it's head forward, knees forward, hips back. He used to say it's a 3-way stretch. Forward from there, back from there, and the knees away. Just release. That's it.
Marjorie, may I ask something?
Of course, Jean.
Is it the same as on the table, that as the shoulders release, the wrist is flatter
Yes.
and not sort of
That's
humped
right.
up?
That's right. That's what happens. So it's a very good guide, really, as to how free the shoulders are.
Yes.
Okay. Is that all right? Is it time we stop, Penny? Okay. Okay.
יש לו ציורים יפים.
$65.
Just have a nice, as you're sitting, when you're sitting on a chair, allow the floor to take your weight. Just be in contact with it, and that very contact will take you up.
And then the breath back. There it was. There it was. That's right.
Then the remedy in the muscles is to tighten it back again. Do you see what I mean?
The neck, the head. You can go wherever you want. Always keeping the same relaxed.
During the 4, 5, 6, and 7 months, usually women feel much better, and they are very open to suggestions. May I just help you? Yeah, can I help you? No, but not too much further, because if you go there, I think, yeah. So you will support yourself, and if you could bring yourself a little bit more here, and just stop playing. I think you are overdoing it. Just release and sit and enjoy it just for a sec while you're sitting there. Is one of the things that people ask me about how I work in late pregnancy, and somebody mentioned working on the table during late pregnancy. What I suggest to you is that first of all, we will take this arm out of the way, okay? I will also suggest to you that we take this leg and bring it to your body, and you are now responsible for this leg, okay? Now I'm going to roll your head to the side, and I'm asking you to allow your body to follow. So if we do it, and with as much non-doing as possible, by really staying here, thinking, rolling, and allowing the body to follow. Yes? You won't fall. I won't let you. Don't worry. Yeah, that's it. Stay with your legs there, please. The two of them. And now, if you put your hand here on the edge of the table, lovely, and I think with you that way, then you'll support yourself and swing the legs. They want to swing, yes?
Sing straight back. She'll have to go as far as part. And when you get to part, can you just stay? Off you go.
I will You know about whispered R's.
I know, but I have problems with this.
You have problems with it. I think most people have a certain problem with whispered R's. A lot of people say, oh no. But in fact, it can be quite good fun. So, that's right, smile, allow the jaw to drop, and say, close the mouth, allow the air to come in through the nose, and once again to smile.
I don't understand what the nose has to be with this.
Oh, you close the mouth and allow the air to come in through the nose. You understand?
Yes.
Right.
In words, I understand.
Wait a minute. So we go about it all quite slowly. Take time to think. A lot of thinking has to go on. Wait, so you have to think. Wait a minute, you're getting ready. Just go on. Don't mind that crowd out there. That's it, to smile. Let the jaw drop and say, close the mouth and allow the air to come in. So you're not at the moment closing your lips. You can take air in through your nose?
I try.
Don't try, just allow it to happen. We all try, we all do too much trying. Just allow it. So we go on, going up there. I just want to show what we're keen for people to learn, and that is to allow the neck to be free, to think of something fun, and leave those eyes smiling, allow the jaw to drop, and say, okay. Now, did any of you notice what happened then? That she took a breath to say the R, and you don't want to take a breath. You say the R with whatever breath is there, then you let the air come in, and you can say another R, and so it goes on. Don't take a special breath, because that's more like a breathing exercise. And this is really just a natural flow of the air coming in and out on demand. So we allow the neck to be free. Oh, just all of you notice where the jaw drops from. So right from there, and let the jaw drop forward. And it's just four. That's good. Most of you have got it. It's dropping forward and down. It's not back. In fact, you do that quite nicely. And close the mouth and allow the air to come in. Okay. Yes.
Do you also move the jaw forward in space, sort of like a drawer, or is it just you let it go?
You let it go, but your thought is that way rather than that way. But mind you, a lot of people have very strong musculatures here, and they find it very difficult. But the thing is, it wants to be, and it isn't a pushing down, it's again allowing it, as though you're a bit half-witted, you know. You let your back come back here. You think of freeing your ankles. Don't forget to free the ankles. Let the knees go forward and hips back. Lovely. Lovely. And if you feel, yes, that's beautiful. And people say, but I'm going to fall, then they must let their head come forward a little more. Or if they sit back on their bottom, so what? Doesn't matter. So, neck, back, back. Lovely. Very nice. All right?
Yes, thank you. That's fun.
And you don't like squatting. Come on. You haven't got too much trouble with knees or anything?
No, my knees are fine.
Fine, yeah.
It's about my thinking.
Okay, okay. So your feet a little further apart. And if people are really stiff in the ankles and can't squat, I put a book under their heels, and that's quite a help. So to start with, you put something, you know, a bit of a telephone directory or something under each heel.
Right.
So you allow this neck to be free. You allow the back to come back here. And you free the ankles. That's it. Let the knees go forward and hips back.
Now I feel like I'm going to fall over.
Back, back, to, well, we'll see
when I
if
get
we
down there, you know?
Yes.
I mean, the journey is wonderful.
The journey is okay.
But once I get down there, I feel like I'm going to fall
back.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can help that a bit.
Okay.
So just go on, letting that neck be free. Letting the back come back, freeing the ankles, and letting the back come back, knees forward. So let this come forward a little. That's right, the head forward. That's better. Head forward a bit more.
But you can sense my weight going back.
Yes, I can. So head forward and back, back. So I think...
And I think it's in my ankles.
I think it could be in the ankles. And I think if you did, we haven't got any books here.
But I think that it's much better than it used to be.
Good.
And it's coming. But I've never been terribly flexible, you know?
Yes.
And which has really been an interesting thing for me. And
if we had some books.
And if we had some books, I bet it would make the difference.
Anyone got any books? And you can even have them a shade further apart, your feet. That's it. That's it. And you're really going up and back. And the head forward some more. That's better. That's it. That's the way.
So you mean it's easier to squat in high heels?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Sure. Yes.
Never would have thought of that.
And let the head come. That's it. And again, we free the ankles. And come up, out. That's it, out of the hips. Right. That's it, right out of the hips. And let your knees go forward and hips back.
Ah.
Look at that. That's lovely.
That's wonderful.
But that's how to give people courage, because they don't have the courage very often. So back, head forward. Oh, lovely.
Wow.
Very nice.
So that's really interesting to me, because it means that the muscles in the back of my legs don't quite have the length.
No, not yet.
And so gradually, if I do it this way, they will. Rika always says to me that if I do it every day.
Right, so you go on up there to take a step. Oh, lovely.
Thank you very much.
Another thing I find is you do need to tune into your pupil at whatever stage they are, whether they're new, they're someone visiting from another course or anything. You want to get to know one another and get to know their various ways, the various ways they interfere, and you want to help one another from where they are at this stage. So again, we go up. That's it. And let the knees go forward and hips back. And yes, FM used that forearm quite a lot. And you can give a lot of direction with the forearm. And then we can take this arm up to support your work. And go on, freeing the neck, that's the way. And now taking this, let me take this arm and just direct from your shoulder to the elbow. That's nice. Lovely, that's it. So she's really getting some length in her arm. Are you getting that? Yes. Yes. Good. And now just let that come round. Good. And don't tighten under. Don't tighten under here. In the armpit, people like to do tighten in the armpit a lot. So, ideally, to take hold of, FM liked the fingers straight. Now, I have had some friends, and one architect friend, he wrote beautifully. He hadn't had any Alexander lessons, but he wrote beautifully with straight fingers. But I don't try and change older people's writing, because they probably won't go along with that. All you can do really is change the way they sit to write. And again, not to get too stuck. That's it. It's getting stuck at the activity. So take up the pen as you read the neck, and then make any marks. Watch you don't tighten here. That's better, that's it. So you're really going up now, that's it. And watch under here too. Watch that tendency, because a lot of us pull ourselves down by the upper arm.
And then you'll respond to what it's as though you've been looking through a tube.
So the eyes slowly come. It's very easy.
And we only have one real. ואנחנו נלך אל הרצפה. ולכפוף. לעקבים. אנחנו עוד פעם אחת נעמוד יותר על העקבים, לכפוף לאחור ולעמוד על העקבים. לא בבטן, לא להחזיק בבטן. לעקבים. נכון.
So we're going up along the spine, and the chair isn't there, and as closer down you go on, aim up, and I don't have to hold you, I just have to, let's stay there. We tend to lose it, stay in your back. So that's how I would teach her, not to go out of it, stay there. We're going to go up, don't go forward. It was quite good. Now I yo-yo you, why? Because I don't want to control you. I don't want to control you. That's good. Well, some people sit like this and do some job there. Not in Boston, but perhaps the desert. Okay, I'm moving you from your up. Wait. You went forward. Stay. No, you're going forward. We'll see. Inhibit. We have to find the up. No, you're going forward. Stay there. It's better you got a little bit more. There are all kinds of works, but what is important is that the person should be able to aim up, move away from your hips, keep your head, and then walk while your body is above your feet. Right. And then, of course, if you want to run, you get that lift inside you, and you don't get heavy by doing that. All right, Abby, thank you.
You saw that in the first example, I used a lot of tension and a lot of straining of the body, and the neck became stiff and the head was taking part in what I was doing. And this is very common when people play something strong, that they things of that kind. When you learn the principle of Alexander's teaching, which says that whatever you do, you can do it in such a way that your whole alignment can remain free and well balanced without the extra unnecessary reactions of tensions and unnecessary doing. You can do exactly the same thing without all the hocus pocus that goes with it, which very often musicians are unaware of. But even if they are aware of, they feel that they're free in that way to play. In fact, they're not particularly free, because if anybody has real freedom in playing, he should be free to choose whether he does something or doesn't do something. But if he is compelled to react in a certain way, it means that he is a little short of freedom.
There was never any hocus pocus. It was what you are doing. You are responsible for what you're doing. And he tried to din that into us. It's your responsibility. If you lift your arm, you've done it. If you don't lift your arm, again, it's your responsibility. You have decided not to lift your arm. And when my aunt had lessons with him in 1911, she found him a very difficult, rather hard taskmaster, and she was desperately anxious to learn this technique. And all he would say to her, how can I possibly give you a new experience if you keep on doing the things that you're accustomed to doing? And she was trying so hard to do the right thing, and of course the harder you try, the more you're going in the wrong direction. Then Irene Tasker, 1 year later, had lessons, and they said, somebody said she broke out in a cold sweat. That was the kind of teaching in those days. It was really fierce, because the teachers had not yet learned to do the things slowly. When by the time I knew Alexander in 1928, he was a dear old gentleman, totally different. You wouldn't have recognized it. Now, what I want to point out is that FM changed his technique for teaching all the time, and his attitude to a pupil, it became more and more refined. Basically, he was tremendously kind. If he had somebody as a pupil who thought they knew everything, he
would either take a lot of trouble with them to try and make them improve that drive to know everything. But if he had a pupil who was very badly injured or who had a lot of problems or a rather sensitive person, he was incredibly kind to them. And he would calm them down and calm them down, particularly if there'd been people, one lady we had with torticollis, which means you have a head, she had a tremendous head swing round to one side. She couldn't stop it, going on like that the whole time. And her left shoulder was up. She looked absolutely exhausted, and the day after day, she was a middle-aged lady. And Alexander managed to somehow rather, by working on her back mostly, he got it so that instead of her heaving like this, he got her so that she was going back. And that back began to give her support, and the heavy swing to one side didn't happen anymore, or not so much. And it was wonderful to watch the release on their faces when quite suddenly they were letting go and letting go and letting go. And I think when you are having a wonderful lesson from somebody, or particularly with Alexander, you went up and up and up and up. He built you up, your head and your back, and your head and your back, the two together, and sort of head and back, and that. You felt absolutely wonderful. You could go outside and push over buses, but you thought you had learned something new. What you were doing, you were just letting go. Your own tensions were pulling you down. Now he could give you that support, which you have lost in some way, with your back and your head, and then up you go. And then you are letting go, and from then onwards, also, you're looking outwards. You're looking out to see what's going on over there, and over there, and over here. It is so deep in us to do the right thing. I've been absolutely amazed in Melbourne. I have had people who are doing a training course, and they come to me or practically in tears about 5 months or so before it's time for them to get their certificate. So, I don't think I'll get my, I don't think I'll pass, I don't think I know enough, and there's the last day kind of threatening them. I think that's dreadful. That they should have that fear, and that there is something wrong has got into that. That fear shouldn't be there. We are using yourself, all of you, as you're sitting now. You are, as you, if you want to, you just think of, now my aunt, when I was small, she taught me keeping my length. She said, keep your length, dear. Now the dear is very important, because it makes it friendly. And you say, keep your length, dear. And she showed me. She took my head forward and up and lengthened me and showed me how to keep that going when I was writing or painting or playing the piano. Or if she caught me slumping around somewhere, she'd say, you're coming down, dear. You see, now, up you come. It was as simple as that, because my up and down, my length, so to speak, was then part of what I was doing. It's not separated out. And it was my responsibility. If you're coming down, you're coming down. Nobody else is. You're coming down. And appropriate, I know what you mean, but it's an in-between word. With Alexander, everything was absolutely clear, yes or no. But with something like Alexander's work, it's about living and about change and about the differences, the constant differences that we're going through. And if you got the Chinese symbol of yin-yang, it's that constant balance all the time. And throughout our life, we've got that balance. But if we use too much of our yes and right and wrong on it, we throw ourselves, maybe we waste an awful lot of time. The clear yes and no is appropriate. Does that sound too harsh? And the idea of end-gaining, yeah. Well, we were end-gaining when we were students. We saw Alexander using his hands, and we felt Alexander's hands. And so we thought, well, that's what we got to learn, see? So we're all using our hands, and up, see? Then in our training course, that didn't always work. And we tried on each other. And I remember one day, Margie Barstow, she was sitting in the chair. I think we got her into the chair. She must have landed with an awful thump because we couldn't get her out again. And she could have just got up and walked away, you know. But no, we were being very precise. We wanted to do the right thing. We went along to Miss Webb. We said, Margie's stuck in the chair. We can't get her out. And so my aunt came along, had a look at Margie, and said, well, look at her, she's coming down. So she took her head and back, and up she went away. It was all very enthusiastic, but FM just let it happen. And after a while, so Walter tells me, FM got desperate. He said, all they want to do is use their hands. I'm looking for the one that works like me. Well, that's how we thought he was working, with his hands. But what he was doing was so subtle. It was his observation, what he had learned over the years, how he could read a person. After I went to Australia, I went to New Guinea. And somebody said to me, why did you go to New Guinea where you could lose everything Alexander taught you? But I think you can do your Alexander for a bit and then go away and try something else. You won't forget it.
I know whether she's coming up with me or whether she's sinking down. And if I find that as here now, she's really coming up very nicely, which is good, you see. There's no drag on my hands, and as she just releases her neck so that her head the weight of the head just comes a little bit more into my top hand, there, like that. That's it, look at that, you see how easily she moves. And I give her that experience a number of times. I give that to somebody, and they say, oh yes, of course, I can move more freely. It's possible to move like that. Obviously, the teacher's hands help me to do it, but if it can be done with the teacher's hands, perhaps it can be done without the teacher's hands. So perhaps I can do it myself. So, you see, here we go. You're just going to sit now. And just one moment. Now, you see, here we are. Now, of course you can do it yourself. Now, free your neck and stand up. There you are. You did it, didn't you? Yeah.
What I'd like to look at in this group is the whispered R. And I want to take you through the basic procedures. So first of all, you're standing on your own 2 feet and you're thinking of your directions. So I'm going to ask Rob to now think of something funny. This creates a smile in the eyes and the soft palate lifts. I'm now going to ask him to continue going up and to put the tip of the tongue to the back of the lower teeth. Can you see that he's done that? And to open the mouth and let the R sound come out in a whisper. And then he shuts the mouth and the air rushes in, inspiration, through the nostrils, and a second R immediately comes. This is going to increase thoracic capacity and increase the lengthening and widening. Excellent. So what do you notice in that? What happens to Rob in the exercise?
The sound is longer.
Exactly.
And he kept on going up.
He kept on going up,
Yes.
precisely.
Well-
and from your point of view, Rob, what did you feel?
Well, I feel that the sound gets louder and fuller all through non-doing, that the process enables the instrument to heighten, become more energized, to become more open and more resonant.
Right. So let's just do one more, and I want you to make sure that as you observe him, you're seeing and hearing all those things, so that you're checking both from the external and from the audio. Once more, Rob. Thinking of something funny, tip of the tongue. This is very nice. So did you manage to see that within that you have incorporated your Alexander directions in an audible way? That's very nice.
You're moving the knee forward, and then you're going to step back in order to kneel, yeah? That's it. Okay. That's it. Don't hold the breath. I think I held my breath a little bit doing that, so let's see if we keep breathing. That's it. And then you bring the other foot round, and you open up the feet there. That's right. Good. And now again, thinking about the technique, you're going to lead with your head and let your back come back and widen. And yeah, let your head lead your hands out onto the ground there. That's it. That's it. So it's called on all fours. Just bring the hands a little bit further forward, leading with the head. That's it. Okay, so just let's explore crawling here. That's it. Sliding your feet and try not to lead with the hands. And let's get a little rhythm going. 1, 2, that's better. 1, 2. You crawl over to this chair and crawl up the chair. Try and keep the rhythm. Don't knock your head on there. That's it. 1, 2, 1, 2. And there you are.
On behalf of the Israeli Organization of Alexander Technique, I wish to thank Shmuel and Ora Nelkin, Rika Cohen, and Pamela Deutsch.
I just want to say that we're all here because of, apart from FM, we're here because of one man, Michael.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a very rare gift to be able to have a dream and to make it come true. And that's exactly what Michael did. The other thing I want to say is, I don't know whether you can imagine what it's like, having been one of 12 people who were in the first training course, to come here and see the nations represented in this way. To see that happen in one's lifetime is a tremendous privilege. And there is such a wonderful feeling coming from you all. And I do thank you for being such wonderful audiences when we've been trying to talk to you.
I hope that we are coming out of this Congress not only with very many impressions from the Congress itself, from the site, from the country, but that we come out of this Congress also with questions, unanswered questions.
I feel very honored that the bell of the previous congresses is handed over to me and I can bring it back to Germany. She's not living in Germany, so that's why I got it. And, so I shake it now and want very much to invite you all to come to Germany.
Oh, friends, now our meeting is over.